Hello. Yeah, it's better now. Yeah.
I feel like I'm a bit in the dark now, but I think it's better. It was a bit, it was a bit too bright.
Welcome, welcome. How are you doing? How is everything?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm okay, thank you. Yeah. How's your
Excellent.
mom doing?
She's all right. I'm heading down to see her on the weekend actually, and then I'll spend a couple of weeks in the Niagara area. So
Awesome, awesome.
yeah.
Yeah. So, Susan, thanks for doing this. I was actually looking into, I was just doing some research on your background.
Mm-hmm.
You were a ski instructor.
Yes.
That's cool.
How'd
And
you find that out?
you led bicycle tours in Ireland, France,
Yes.
PEI,
Yes. PI. Yep.
and ended up as an auditor.
I know, it's very strange.
There's absolutely no connection.
The international part does, if you follow the trajectory of my career. So I always knew I wanted to do something international. I'm actually, so you're absolutely right. You nailed it. So between undergrad and grad school, I was a ski instructor in the winters in Whistler and a cycling tour guide in the summer. And but I always sort of knew that I wanted to have like an international career and something in sport. And I went back and I did an MBA in sport and leisure management at the University of Alberta.
Okay.
And I thought, like, for sure, I'm going to work in sport. And my first job coming out of there, and actually even my internship when I was there, was in sport at IMG Canada, which was like, they represent a number of athletes and they used to run a number of events. And then it was in sponsorship. I don't know, it was great for a while, but wasn't sort of really what I was thinking about. And I, or just wasn't what I had imagined it to be. And then I moved to Ottawa for love, a relationship. And one of my classmates put me in touch with one of their former bosses who was head of internal audit. And she was looking for people who were not auditors to join her team. Anyway, I started there in the central government and then eventually moved on to an international career. So it kind of like, it all worked out in the end, but it is a very odd trajectory, I think.
Yeah, but I was going to ask, the next question was, okay, you have like an international resume as well. You worked in UK, you worked in US, I think you worked in different parts of like Europe. Yeah.
Yep. Yes,
That's
exactly.
Awesome. Yeah. Awesome.
No, it's been fabulous. And I mean, right now I work for Save the Children. It's a big international NGO. I worked for them in London. I worked in Denmark for the UN previously as well, but always being able to go out to our field offices and really sort of see the incredible work and the programs that my colleagues do. And and a lot of places all around the world. So my travel is my stamps on my passport are quite different than a lot of people's. So yeah. Exactly.
And here's another cool thing. You're the fastest Canadian to swim across Catalina Channel.
I am.
Way to go.
I was pretty shocked.
No, that is a pretty impressive time. Yeah.
Thank you.
Faster than you. I don't think there are many out there.
Well, until recently, I was the 10th fastest of all time. And then oh my gosh, I'm forgetting his name. Oh, Andreas Washberger. Who, as you know, is like ridiculoly fast. He just snuck in. No, I think he's 7th fastest, so I'm the 11th fastest.
Okay. I'm going to start a movement. Anybody who swims in the Olympics should not do an adventure open water swim for like until 10 years since they've retired. Okay.
I totally agree. Yes, give us all a chance. Yeah.
Very good. That's awesome. Yeah. And also one thing that I noticed was like the transition from pool to open water swimming, that only happened recently in the last.
Yeah, it did.
Like why did it take so long now? You're like such an avid open water swimmer now.
I know. I jumped in with both feet, I guess. I swam very seriously, competitively growing up and through university. And then as an adult, I've done masters here and there. You just mentioned all the places I've lived, and I usually do it to meet people. You just got something in common, and I obviously still enjoy swimming and always did through those years. And when my husband and I moved to Washington, D.C. in 2018, I was like, okay, I'm join a team or whatever. And then I realized, with the Chesapeake Bay nearby and whatnot, maybe I should try something different. Maybe I should do open water. It took me a year to actually get my act together. And I went to one practice, which in the Potomac, run by a dear friend of mine now, Dennis Crean, and it's Wave 1 open water. And they basically set up a course in National Harbor in the Potomac. And I did one practice going around the buoys, and I went, this is really fun. Maybe that's going to be my DC thing. And Sean Nuttall, who you've talked to recently, is a very good friend of mine, Lake Ontario swimmer. He and I were in New York 2 weeks after that. I did that little practice, and I told him, this is really fun. And by that time, he'd already done Manhattan, I think, and Catalina. And he just looked at me and said, oh, do you want to do the English Channel? And I said, sure. So probably arrogance, I don't know. But basically, that was the first thing I actually signed up for, was the English Channel in 2021. But I got weathered out my first time. And I think actually for the better, I ended up being able to do a number of other open water swims before I tackled the channel itself.
Beautiful.
But yeah, that's how I got into it. A drink with a friend, honestly. So yeah.
So many people have given me the same answer. So
yeah. Exactly. It wasn't a dare, but it was it was a challenge that I accepted. And then I did think about it, and I did some research, and I talked to a friend of a friend. And I went, you know what? Yeah, why not? I grew up a distance swimmer, so I just thought I was looking for a new challenge, and well, the rest is history.
And 200 fly.
Yes. Yeah, 200 fly, 1,500 free, because those are the fun ones.
Awesome.
So,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I believe you're also on Sean Nuttall's swim. You were you looked after him, and
I was crew chief. So we had a very big crew. I think there were 4 Zodiac drivers. So his brother and his brother-in-law were there, and then there were a bunch of us friends, and I was the swimmer amongst the crew. Okay. We also had a really good friend, Mike Coughlin. He's actually a triathlete coach as well. So there were 3 of us that were, and then our friend Alex. The 3 of us were the feeders, and we spelled on and off with one another. And then the others were the Zodiac drivers. But yeah, I was crew chief, sort of bringing that all together for Sean. It was great. It was 43 hours of fun.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Way to go. I know we've spoken about being an auditor in the past. As an auditor, trained for an open water swim.
How does an auditor train?
I know you guys are into processes. You're evaluating everything.
Yeah.
How do you solve that problem? Okay, hey, this is what I want to do, and how do I attack this?
Yeah, that's a great question. I have a whiteboard. I'm a big fan of being able to see something visually. So. I think my first year or so, I was really adamant. I set weekly goals in terms of the distance that I want to achieve, and then I was recording every single day, down to the meter. I've gotten away from that a bit, but I do still set those weekly goals. So once I set out a plan before I start training for any other swim, I really do plan it out, and I talk with friends and people that have done that particular swim just to sort of see if there's any idiosyncrasies that I should think about. Yeah, and then I put it all on a whiteboard, and I write my plan and my actual, and if anything went wrong, and then I just have that visual reference the entire time. And I guess that kind of organization, lends itself, or comes from maternal audit. I'm not really sure, but yeah, I just I know people talk about intuitive training. And I think I have a good amount of intuition in the pool, but I can't intuit my way to a 32-kilometer swim. I need to have a plan, because for me, it's also about and that visual bit, I think, gives me a bit of accountability as well, which is very tied to my job too. Talk about it all the time, but yeah, I can be that sort of self-accountable when I see the when I see that board every time I walk into my dining room, because it sits like out in the open so that I can't shy away from it. So, yeah.
What's your approach to solve the nutrition problem during the swim? Okay, like, I mean, yeah.
My
How do you
nutrition?
do it? Yeah.
I feel quite lucky because I talk to a lot of friends who get seasick and who have really had to experiment with a lot of different nutrition products. I lucked in very early on. I tried, what is it, Hammer Perpetuum, because a number of my friends in DC were using it and it didn't work for me. And somebody told me about Infinite Nutrition, which you probably know about, but basically you can do a custom blend for yourself. You talk about like how much do you sweat, what the temperature of water, is it salty or not, and really sort of like dial it in for yourself. And I tried that and I've never looked back. So I'm really, really simple. And there's a few reasons for that. One, I always knew from the get-go, I was training toward the English Channel, and it's cold water. So you want to make sure that your feeds are quick. So I wanted something that was very, very simple, that I didn't really need to think about, didn't need to fiddle around with, and I wasn't sitting there trying to chew something. The second thing is I learned over time, I don't really tolerate solids very well when I'm swimming. So I went for the liquid. And then, I mean, I kind of said, I just didn't want to think about it and worry about it. And for me, it's an all-in-one solution. So it's got electrolytes and a little bit of protein, very minimal amount, and all the carbs that I need. I've changed it a few times over the years. So for example, like if I know I'm doing a big, like I did SCAR earlier this year, and I increased the electrolytes because it wasn't in salt water. So I knew that I would need more. And the same thing, I think, for my English Channel, I dialed it back a little bit in terms of electrolytes. But by and large, it stayed the exact same. It's like just under 300 calories an hour, which is pretty high, actually. I think compared to a lot of my friends, I think I've taken like double what a lot of my friends taken. But I honestly, I tried going lower because originally they've got a great nutritionist that talks to you about it. I tried going lower, and I was getting headaches, and I felt that I was hungry. And so I thought, okay, I think I work pretty hard when I'm doing those swims. Not to say that other people don't, but that's what my body needs when it's working, especially.
Wow.
Yeah, challenging.
And when you went to Catalina, did you up to the speed record, or did it just happen, or like how did everything fall in place?
It just happened.
It just happened.
It just happened. I had a really strange year because I had some training challenges and whatnot, and there were just periods of time where I wasn't able to train, and I was actually a bit stressed out coming into it. But in the last few weeks, maybe 6 weeks or so, I was able to do like a really accelerated plan. And I do meters in the pool, and then I do hours and time when I'm doing open water swims. And so I just kind of like ramped up like 3 hours, 3 + 3, 6, and just sort of, and then 6 and 6. I think those are my last 4 weeks heading into it. And then I tapered for about like 8 days. I don't like a long taper. Maybe it was only even a week. And so I came into it feeling like really good, really rested. I had like a couple days, I had really good sleeps heading into it. And I think the fact that I didn't have to go to bed and then get up like partway through the night actually worked in my favor. The fact that you just kind of, start and then swim through the night as well. I obviously had good conditions. It started out really rough, to be honest, for the first few hours. I mean, I think a lot of people do have that as the wind is dying down. And I had like really big side swells and everything. I kept running into the kayak. I mean, I thought I was going to lose my wrist at some point, but I kick a lot during, I kick a lot generally. I'm a kicker.
Me too. Yeah.
People are always like, "Oh, you shouldn't be kicking." I'm like, I'm not going to go anywhere if I don't kick. Like,
exactly.
I'm kind of a weak puller. But I kick a lot to stabilize, especially when it's rough, like kind of a washing machine. And I think that just set me out kicking pretty hard from the beginning, and I just held it all the way through. kind of to not the plan. I had actually asked my husband to let me know, like when I was a third of the way, I think a half, and then maybe 3/4 of the way or 2/3, something like that. I gave him markers, like let me know when I'm, because my husband was like, crew chief, let me know when I'm at these places, and he forgot.
Okay.
So by the time they told me, like we were having a conversation, and I was having a conversation with the crew, and I said, am I at halfway? And everyone went, oh yeah. And then I was like, what? And I started doing the calculations in my head. I'm like, that's crazy where I am. And then the next time I came up for a feed, he said, oh, just so you know, I read your plan again, and I know that you wanted to know 2/3 or whatever. And he said, you're over 2/3 too. And I was like, oh my gosh.
Way to go.
So that was like, I only knew 2/3, 3/4 of the way through that I was going as fast as I was. And then even at the end, I was actually off by a feed. So I thought it was going to be 8:40, and they told me I was 8:09. And I was
8:09. Like, yeah, that's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. So
does your husband swim?
he can swim. He's actually quite a good swimmer, but he doesn't swim.
Like
he's
you.
never competed or anything like that. Yeah.
No, because when he did not mention the fact that that you have that says a lot of it. Okay.
I literally chastised him for the water. I was like, you know what, I put it on my plan like for a reason, and I laminated it, and I had, because that's the kind of, you asked about being an auditor, like I laminate my plans and I give it to my crew.
And he's not an auditor.
No, he's very detailed, but he wasn't on that one. To be fair, it was a really rough ride out to Catalina. And he had my other very good friend Katie, she was crewing for me, and they were both really fighting the seasickness. I think he was just happy to be, alive. Yeah.
What's your favorite, when you have like a long workout, what's your favorite workout? Like, how do you, because the reason I'm asking this is,
sure,
1600 and 200 fly.
Yeah.
It talks about craziness. Okay? So what's your favorite workout?
I love me some like good pace work. So I typically now, when I'm at like in the height of training, I start out with longer stuff, and I gradually decrease the distance through the swim. But it might be like I start with a 1600, and then I do 2 times 800, and eventually, but like I'll add in, 4 times 100, where I have to bring up the pace and then bring it back down. And what I really like doing is like those gear changes, right? So if any point in time that your pilot says to you, you got to punch it for an hour, I know that gear exists and I can turn it on and off. As a distance swimmer, like I've done more 100s and 200 repeats, like, and things like that I could possibly count, but I still really like them, and I find them really good. It's like a good feedback mechanism for me and where I am in my training. When I know I don't have to look at the clock, I know exactly what time I will do. So I'll be like, okay, this is the point at which I can hold what I'll be holding 23s, for this, and I'll just hold it forever. Or, okay, I need to step it up. And I'm like, and I know I'll check every once in a while, but I actually almost don't need to, because I am so in tune with my body. And a lot of that comes out of that pacing work and hundreds and things like that. But then the variation, so that you really feel the speed differences, I think, in your body. So that's what I really enjoy doing, which I know sounds crazy, but I don't get in the pool and do like hours at a time. I know some people that would get in and do a 6-hour swim. I have actually like a 10K limit in the pool. I just lose. I can do doubles in a day and go beyond 10K, but in one session, I try not to go beyond 10. Like occasionally, I'll go beyond 12. And that's just because I just find mentally that's where I'm at. But also, I don't, like I said, I'm not just going in and swimming forever. I actually am usually working pretty hard throughout combination of hard and sort of.
Here's something that I struggled when I was training. I mean, my swimming is like 20 years ago.
Yep.
Like translating the speed in the pool into the open water
Yeah.
when it's bumpy. I could never transform that. I mean, I was faster in the pool. Like, okay, decent speed, yeah.
Yeah.
And my EC was 12:31. Okay, but I kind of like couldn't get the rhythm in place.
Yeah.
So like, did you do anything? Like, how did you like transform that from pool to open water? Yeah,
I think I do work. So I did this actually last year with Scar. Like I was like, I really want to work on speed. It's a race, right? So I was like, okay, I worked really hard on speed. And then just to sort of see how it can translate into water and see if you can hold it. I know that naturally, like I can get quite fast in the winter in the pool. And then the more time I spend in open water, kind of swimming at a more easier pace, I actually do lose my speed as well. So I think it's pretty natural. In fact, I think I saw an interview with Sarah Thomas recently where she said that as well, or it was something that she wrote like, oh yeah, I typically lose some of my speed. I was like, okay, well, if Sarah loses it, then like, I feel okay. Feel okay about this, you know? But I will say though that like, I breathe every 3 and I do that through the waves and through everything. And I know that like all the people say these days, you don't have to get as much oxygen as you need. For me, I try to keep my stroke as consistent in the open water as it is in the pool. I do develop bad habits over time. So with like sighting and things like that. So there's a kayak here, even if it's right here, I tend to pick up my head a little bit as I'm breathing to that side, you know, like, and so I've been trying quite consciously to work on some of those things. But I find that speed is one of the ones that I try to maintain just because I try to maintain the same form actually, and a kick and, you know, things like that. So I don't know how successful I am at it, but I do, but I do try to hold on to it. Yeah.
I like your answer because you kick. I love to kick.
Yeah, definitely.
You're a cycler, swimming, and you've chosen swimming as your. I'm going like swimming is your forever sport, is what I'm thinking.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's not the question you asked, but like I grew up. I grew up from a very young age swimming. I was lucky my family had a cottage. I was always in the water. My parents would say just, you know, I was a water baby from the day I was born. And then my brother was a competitive swimmer and he's 5 years older than me. And I got onto it. And it's not only like it's actually woven into my identity, I would say, like to be perfectly honest, I'm going to be really cheesy here and quote Top Gun Maverick, but there's this moment, I think, when he says, you know, I'm a pilot. It's not what I am, it's who I am. And what went through my head in that moment is I was like, that's how I feel about swimming, honestly. And, you know, as an adult, you know, I would dip in and out for masters and I still kept it. But when I really got back into open water swimming and I got really into the community, I was like, I didn't realize what I was missing for maybe 20 years or so. And it's really like completed me again, I think, as a person. So like I cycle, I run, I do all kinds of other things, but I love swimming and I love talking about it. So yeah, I'm a swimmer through and through. And I hope to be one of those masters, you know, ladies that's like topping 100. And diving in and doing probably not butterfly, but maybe like a 50 or 100 free sounds good. Sounds like a good ambition.
Sarah mentioned she was born to swim.
That
was beautiful. Yeah. So cross training. Do you do any?
I do. Yeah. I do like to run. I don't know. I like being outside whenever I travel as well. I feel it's an easy way to get exercise and also be able to see the city or the place that I'm going as well. I don't do it a lot, but you know, once or twice a week. And I've never enjoyed weight training ever. You know, when I was a kid and I was training and our coach would make us go in, I really despised it. But I am a woman of a certain age, and everything I read tells me that I'm supposed to lift hard. So I started getting into it a couple of years ago, and it's actually become, I really do enjoy it now. And I have found that it's been paying off. So I try to do, like, when I started out swimming or training for SCAR, I was actually weight training 5 times a week. And now and then I pulled it back to about 3, and just as my mileage increased. And so I've sort of tried to keep the 3. And I found a really big difference for me. In particular, like, I find that I train like almost exclusively in fresh water, but I find it very painful. Like, your lower back just really hurts over time, whereas you just don't get that as much in salt water. And I found that when I focused on like glutes, quads, and everything like that throughout the winter this year in SCAR, I didn't even think about it. So that was a really good learning for me as well. Yeah.
I was going to ask you about like, as an auditor, somebody who's always looking into processes and everything, when things change in the open water, things that you can control, things you can't control, how do you deal with that, like, from a mind perspective? Yeah.
I don't know. I think I'm like one of those people that just like bears and goes for it. I'm clearly goal driven, you know, and I like a good challenge. So when it changes, like, I'm not saying I don't have my moments where I've definitely like cried in my goggles and swore a blue streak underwater as I'm getting bashed around and whatnot. But like, I kind of give myself the grace to do that, and then just get on with it, because honestly, one of my biggest fears is failure. I hate to say it, but it is, and I know I'm human, and I'll forgive myself if I do, but I really do, like, I am very much like, gotta get it done and get to the end, you know. And especially, I feel a responsibility too when you bring like friends over with you to crew, and they spend their time, because I do a lot of crewing myself, and I know that it's tiring, and it's a wonderful experience, but I know what it is to give yourself, and so I want to make sure that I make it worth it.
So I take it that you haven't failed, and you rarely fail.
I have. Actually, my first DNF I had was a couple years ago, but it was a 200 meter. It was 200 meters at the Memphremagog Winter Festival, like some ice swimming. And I got in and I blasted out 100. I got to the end and I was like, I'm done. There is no way I could keep going. And then, of course, afterward, I was like, you know, beating myself up and whatnot. But then I was like, no, it was good, because I knew in that moment it was right for me to stop. And I, like, as much as I said, oh, I'm pushing through and whatnot, I am also a bit like conservative, like, especially when it comes to the cold and things like that. I'm not going to do anything to really put myself too much in danger. And I just, you know, hope that when the time comes where I just say, and I know it will, I can't do this anymore, and it's the right decision for me to get out, that I can, you know, give myself the grace to do it. Yeah. So, but I think I've been lucky on some other, you know, swims. Like, you don't know what you're going to get, obviously, when you show up and see the conditions. And I've certainly had my fair share of like variable conditions and whatnot, but I've seen some friends do some pretty incredible swims, and I've watched the footage and said, I don't know that I would have stayed to the end, you know, but they really showed amazing sort of grit, determination. My friend Anita had like the single worst English Channel conditions I've ever seen. And she finished, and she was a total rock star. And I was like, man, I don't know if I could have done that. So, yeah.
When you do it, when you complete a swim, like triple, long, SCAR, like, is there anything that you take out of your swim? Like, okay, hey, like,
what are my takeaways? Yeah, I'm definitely always looking. as a true auditor, I'm always looking for lessons learned. What did I do well? You know, what didn't go well? I do think a lot about nutrition as well. Like I said, I feel like I've got it pretty dialed in. SCAR was super interesting because you just like race day on day. And so by day 2, like already I was in a deficit, and I knew right away, like within the first few kilometers, like I don't feel great. And I knew it was a nutrition thing. So we sort of figured it out by the end of the swim, but I did spend most of Canyon not feeling awesome. And then on Apache, we were just like, okay, I just said, keep every hour, give me a goo on top of my feeds until I tell you not to my sister who's kayaking. So that was like, you know, a really big learning for me, was that I was able to figure out what not having enough calories felt like, versus like, you know, not just being, because, you know, it's not just being hungry. Like, it's just a feeling that like something's just not quite right. Yeah, and do that. So I am always sort of like looking for lessons, and what can I do differently in training? What would I want to do differently in training? Yeah, like what are the moments to celebrate too, where you're like, wow, I really was ready to pack it in, you know, for like that one feed, and I just told myself to give it one more, and whatnot. So yeah, I do reflect quite a bit coming out of it, for sure.
Right. Yeah.
And you know, the crew, and obviously like how well they did, and just, it's just so amazing to be so well supported. What works, what doesn't, etc.
What's the most difficult thing that you've done, Susan?
SCAR, like hands down.
SCAR? Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
Each race, yeah.
I mean, I went into it wanting to do well. So that meant that I was going to put it all out, like all on the line, sort of like every single day. And knowing I'm not actually a sprinter, you know, I was like, well, I'll just do my best and see how I can do. And just the like changing conditions and the heat. You and I both, we don't live that far apart in Canada. Like, I was melting, and you know, it's a cold water swim, and I totally realized that actually the temperatures, even as they were, are on the chilly side, but I was just so hot like the whole time. And yeah, like I said, like figuring out their nutrition, and then honestly, like on Roosevelt, like I started sprinting, and I felt this like exhaustion in my arms that I never felt. And I totally panicked, and my sister was amazing and calmed me down, and I figured it out, and I kept going. But I was like, I got to the end, and I was like, yeah, I mean, there were tears shed multiple times during the week, but purely I was like, yeah, it was the hardest thing hands down I've ever done, but actually one of my favorite events I've ever done as well. Because yeah, the competition, the camaraderie, and like just everything was incredible. But it's an easy answer for me. and I should say, so far, because I hope to have many other challenges, and I'm sure that there'll be some other super challenging days as well.
Final question. I know you're training for something big.
Yeah.
What is it, and how are you training for it? Yeah. When is it going to happen? Yeah.
Okay. I'm training for the North Channel. So assuming most of your listeners know what that is, but leaving in all likelihood from Northern Ireland to Scotland. It's just slightly longer than the English Channel. I think it's 35 kilometers. And that is next July. So end of July next year. I'm really excited because in the same window, I have 4 other friends swimming. So we basically booked all of Infinity's boats out. And I get to be there with my buddies, some of my really close friends.
Is Bill Ship one of them?
Well, Bill is a friend. Yes, absolutely.
But is he in the same window or the window?
No, he's not in the window. No, no, it's like ladies only.
Okay.
No, I do know Bill. Bill's great. We trained together earlier this year in Vermont. We did the Vermonster together, and we were paired right beside one another. That was quite fun. And then I've seen Bill for the last couple of years. He's been there every time I've gone to court distance week as well. Yeah. So so that's so it's next year. Honestly, speaking of the people, like I lean so much on friends. We have I've got like that group of ladies plus a few others. So Corey Murphy, who won SCAR this year, is also doing the North Channel next year, and then a couple other friends. And so we're on a like group chat where we're just talking about creating strategies and all making sure that we can get the cold water exposure that we need, right? Our challenge here is that it freezes. And so it's too cold. It's not really, you can't really train. So I pretty much have to go travel. So I have a plan because I'm mildly terrified of the cold. I have a plan to try and do a few qualifiers just to make sure, and you and I have chatted about this on the side, just to make sure that I feel really good, like in my bones, I know that I can handle the cold. And so I'll probably do one of those maybe in California, probably something more local. Maybe I'll come visit you. And really sort of dial it in. Otherwise, I like to train sort of like about 4 months or so for a big event. So that means actually I really need to turn it on for like February ish. So until then, I'm going to be doing masters. But I decided to keep myself a bit interested. I'm going to try to do, and now I have to say this public, but so now I'm going to have to try and do it. I'm going to try to do a pretty fast 800 this winter. That's my goal, is to train up for that, do a fast 800, hold the speed into marathon training and start going longer, through the spring, with these trips on the side, like I said, to do some other trains. Oh, and I bought a cold plunge too.
Way to go.
Yeah, I mean, like I'm gonna go into the ice, but again, it's like it's not that helpful because I mean it's helpful, but it's not the right kind of training that we need. I haven't plugged it in yet, so more on that when I actually do. But a number of my friends who've done it have said that they did the cold plunge and they really thought that it actually helped for their training. So I thought I would give it a try as well. So
I'll be rooting for you, Susan. Okay.
I'm gonna be like talking to you, asking you advice. Like, oh god. So we'll chit chat all the way through training for sure. Thank you. And I just am like, there's so few Canadians that have done it. I mean, it's still.
You'll be the second Canadian.
Yeah, I mean, unless another Canadian sneaks in this year, and I'm not sure if they will, or next June, which I mean. Lord love them, because it's really cold. But it looks like I could be the second Canadian, and I would love to do well.
Go for it.
Yeah. Like I actually, you asked, sorry, I know you said last question, but like you asked earlier about DNFs. This is the first one where I'm very much like approaching this with I'm gonna do my best, but like it has different elements than other swims. I mean, the cold is more severe, the jellyfish, there's all these things that are just a little, not just a little, a lot different than other swims. And I'm going to do my absolute best. But
I think you should take the same approach, goal-driven, auditor and goal-driven. Just go for it. Yeah.
I'll try. I will try. I'll do my best. Yeah, looking forward to it for sure.
This is what I noticed with Liz Fry. She attacks the water. Just go get it.
Yeah. I've been told that that's what my stroke looks like too.
Way to go.
Yeah, I was working with Charlotte Brand last year. She did some amazing stroke analysis, and she actually coached me for the English Channel. And I was like, I feel like I'm kind of attacking the water. And she's like, those were the words I was going to use. And I'm like, well, yeah, fair enough. But actually, like, over 12 hours, it does exhaust the body. So I'm trying to work on my calm. But calm and strong is what I'm going to try to do. So I'll try to work on that through the winter.
Susan, thank you very much. Good luck with your training.
Thank you so much.
We'll be talking. Okay.
That sounds great. Thanks a lot for the time.
Bye.